What's going on, people? We're back again. We got Jamal Lewis in the building. What are you saying, bro?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm well, blood. Yeah, you look
Good.
well rested and that. What was training saying anyway?
Yeah, it's all right, man. Obviously, just training by myself. Just ticking along. Obviously, this little break hasn't been as long as others, obviously due to the COVID and that. So yeah, just ticking over, just getting ready for the next season, man.
Yeah, how's it feeling, man? Obviously, like big Premier League season individually for yourself. You know what I mean? Getting a lot of recognition. And actually, it's been a good few years because you got into the Championship team of the season the year before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
PFA
came
and
up to the
EFL, yeah.
Prem. Yeah, then came up to the Prem, gave a good account of yourself. Do you know what I mean? Been linked with some big moves over the summer. Like personally, obviously aside from obviously the relegation, like how do you feel the season's gone for yourself?
Yeah. Obviously, personally, I felt like I had a pretty good start to the season, which was obviously in line with obviously how Norwich was doing as well. Felt like as a collective, we started pretty well, obviously with performances against Man City and Newcastle at home. Kind of showed kind of the Premier League what we could do and how we kind of play in our football style. And midway through the season, I was suffering with a little bit of health. I had suffered with a bit of pneumonia, and I had a little niggle with my knee, so that kind of weren't going well for me personally. Came out the team just to kind of rest up, and then I kind of struggled to get back in the team because Sam Byron was playing really well. The team's performances were pretty good, even though the results weren't going that way. The team performances were really good, so I just had to bide my time, man, and that's something that I hadn't had to deal with for quite a long while. I've always been kind of first choice and just always been on the first left back on the team sheet or week in week out. So I kind of just had to dig my heels in and just wait for my opportunity, and then yeah, like a month or so before COVID hit, kind of got back in the team and just got moving back and yeah, got back in my rhythm. So it's been a roller coaster year. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm always for the team. So obviously it's disappointing to
Mm.
get relegated. But I feel like personally, I've really showcased with quite a few performances what I can do at the top level, man.
Yeah, what is the kind of morale like at the moment with the team? Because it was one of them ones where Norwich came up, had like a big reputation for playing like a good expansive style of football. Didn't
Mm,
disappoint when they came up, played some good stuff, man. And it's one of them ones where they went down, but they went down with no one really having anything bad to say about them. You know, sometimes you get teams come up and they kind of try and shithouse their way and then kind of stay up. Do you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? And a
yeah,
lot of people, even though they stay up, people don't really rate them. Do you
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's one of them ones where you lot had some big performances, like the win against City. No one will ever forget that. Everyone was like, "What's going on here?" Do you know what I mean? Because
mm,
one thing to
mm,
beat Manchester City, yeah, but when you beat them like that,
mm,
do you know what I mean? It's just a bit of a mad one. And every time Norwich played, like whether they got the result or not, like it was always a good game to watch. So I can
mm.
imagine that to play in a team like that, it must just be nuts. What's the morale like with the boys in the team?
Yeah, obviously it's tough, especially post COVID. Obviously coming back, we thought that we could really obviously we was at the bottom of the table, but we thought we could still challenge and just make it hard for other teams. Obviously
Mm.
didn't go that way. Results weren't going our way, and we just obviously didn't put the performances in just to make the relegation scrap a little bit more interesting. Unfortunately, so that's always going to take a toll on people's morale, team morale, people's mentality. Obviously, we came from the championship. We kind of obviously we had a little sticky start in the championship. We didn't win in our first 5 games, but after that we just steamrolled teams. You know what I mean? So from going to basically winning week in week out, I don't think we did. We had 2 losses on the bounce in the championship 2 years
Mm.
ago. So going from winning week in week out to then getting beat week in week out, that's quite tough mentally for people. Obviously, our team we have quite a lot of young players. First time in the Premier League. Obviously, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to expect. We're kind of going
Mm.
in, trying to get our feet wet, basically. But also, we've got a lot of kind of foreign players that haven't played in the Premier League either. So we had quite a inexperienced team at that level.
Yeah.
We kind of had to adapt week in week out and see kind of what we were dealing with. We always knew that we wasn't going to really we was always going to come in and play our style. We weren't going to kind of, okay, we're going to switch up. This is how we were successful the year before, but we're going to scrap that and just change out. We knew that we was always going to kind of stick to our DNA, and I think that the boys bought into it. And yeah, obviously, like you said, we showed some great performances and entertained a lot of people in some performances, but unfortunately, it weren't good enough to stay in the league, you know. And at the end of the day, you got to get wins and you got to get points on the board to stay in the league, because it's a tough league, man. These teams are proper, man. So definitely this year we found out that you go one goal down, it's so tough to get back in that game, man.
Yeah, that's mad. I never really thought about that. And I guess it's like the same for like Fulham as well, who are kind of known as like a yo-yo team. Like when you go from winning every week in the championship to then coming up to the Prem and not having it your own way, like psychologically, that must take like quite a toll on some of the players, you know, because you know what it's like after you're winning. Do you know what I mean? You're on the team bus on the way home. Even before the games, you're on the bus on the way to the game thinking, all right, lads, 3 points, who's going to score today? Kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? From pulling up to a stadium and thinking, oh boy, not another one. Do you know what I mean? It's like psychologically, that must take a lot of toll on players, especially, again, very inexperienced in terms of Premier League level. And a lot of the time you see teams when they come up, they buy a lot of older Premier League experienced players, or maybe players that have been relegated the year before from the Premier League and stuff like that. You lot pretty much came up with most of what you played this season with. Do you think that was definitely a big factor?
Obviously, looking in hindsight, which is always the best side, it's obviously going to be a factor of obviously where we was going through stretches where we weren't winning many games, and maybe we thought there wasn't the thought process of, okay, what could we do differently in terms of, could we approach the game a little bit differently? I feel like, obviously, it's like I said, looking back at it, you could say every team's going to look back and say, oh, Carl, we could have got a point here. We could have got 3 points here. We could have got, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you look at it over the course of the season, we just wasn't good enough collectively, individually. That's just how it is, you know. Sometimes everyone's just got to look themselves in the mirror and just say, okay, we weren't good enough. That's okay. We got to just try go again and rebuild, you know. Obviously, Championship is a very tough league as well. So if we're feeling sorry for ourselves, the championship's not going to be any easier, you know what I mean? So we don't want to kind of go down and think, dwelling on the kind of Premier League season. We got to go down and kind of just approach the championship season as we did the year before, and be hungry and just kind of show the teams why we were able to get to the Premier League in the first place.
Yeah, what game was it this season, that sticks out in your head? Because I think even just as a football fan, when you support a club, you know there's certain games where it feels like, this is the turning point. You thought that we had this, and then we didn't get it. Like I remember, like for United a few years back when United bottled the game against Everton from 4-2 up, drew the game 4-4, and I was like, that's it, the title's gone. And even though there was like 4 or 5 games to go, like there's certain games that are really hard to take, because you know that like we had this and then we've kind of let it slip. What was the most disappointing game for you playing in that maybe you felt that, we was in control of this, and then for some reason you just managed to get nothing from it?
Well, for some reason we played Watford at home, November time. And for some reason, Watford were below us at that point. And we was actually talking about this a few weeks ago when we was together. For some reason, we thought that was such a must-win game. And obviously, looking back at it, obviously, we wanted to win it because that would have put us in a better position. Of course, every point's important. But looking back at it, like it was so early on in the season that it wasn't really a must-win game. But everyone going into the game, we was like a little bit nervous, thinking, okay, we need to win this game. We need to kind of put Watford in a worse position and get us moving up the table. But I'd say what was a game that kind of deflated us? I'd probably say Sheffield United was quite tough, where we lost 1-0. That was quite tough. Just kind of, obviously we got promoted with them. Obviously they've showed themselves really well in the league this year. Obviously congratulations to them. But we thought that we could kind of push them, and kind of that was 3 points where we could have probably really helped us and propelled us to kind of push on. Obviously they won 1-0, so kind of just another kind of blow as well. So it's tough, man. It's been a tough year, definitely. Just to try to, like we said, the mental aspect of the game was really tested this year. But yeah, I'd probably say that game and probably a few games that we played this year, where it was kind of we kind of needed to get 3 points there, or kind of a point, and we wasn't able to do so. So yeah, that's just kind of the overview from my point of side.
And how was it? Because I remember, for instance, like I went to watch United games. Wolves away. I remember, I think it was last season, they beat us in the FA Cup and in the league 2 weeks running. I went to Molineux twice. I hate that place, man. Lost there 2 weeks in a row. And I spoke to a lot of the Wolves fans, and when they came up, they were like, we actually prefer to play against the bigger teams, and we struggle more against the teams around us. Like, did you find it more difficult to play against the teams that were in and around you, because maybe they were a lot hungrier, and maybe they didn't underestimate you, as opposed to playing against the bigger teams? Because a lot of your good performances have come up against teams that on paper should have dealt with you quite comfortably, and it hasn't always been there.
Yeah, definitely. We it's so hard to pinpoint, obviously, maybe because the bigger teams are a lot more expansive, because they think they can kind of blow us out the water, or maybe, or obviously vice versa, the teams that are maybe around us give us not more respect, but kind of sit in and wait for us to make a mistake a little bit, which we was kind of prone to this season. So yeah, I think kind of we've obviously showcased ourselves quite well with the bigger teams, playing kind of almost like an expansive game, kind of box to box, and an entertaining game, and obviously with the teams more around us, is definitely what I learned this year. Kind of like I said just before, like once they score one goal, they will shut up shop, and then they'll wait and they'll wait and they'll wait and they'll wait until we're really desperate to kind of score, and then maybe 80th minute, get into the 90th minute, and then they'll kind of nick a second one when we're really desperate to score, and then it's game over. You know what I mean? So definitely that's what I noticed this year compared to last year, when we was kind of just, we might go 1 down or 2-1 down, and we always knew we had that kind of belief that we would always kind of score until the 90th minute, up until the last whistle, really. So definitely the quality, the kind of tactical side of things, definitely learned a lot on them side of things this year.
What's the manager like? Because it's one of them ones on the side on TV, he kind of looks proper serious, yeah. But then when I see what the players are like on the pitch, I'm like, he can't be that. He must give them quite a bit of leeway, because you see Todd dancing around, you see you look like you're having fun out there. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's mad. He looks mad serious, but then I also feel like probably in person he's pretty chilled, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the manager is really good for young players, really good. If you go out there, obviously there's some managers that you go out there as a young player and you're quite apprehensive to kind of take risks, because if you make a mistake, you may feel like you may get replaced for maybe a more experienced player that will do the job and not make mistakes. You know what I mean? So he's really advocate for kind of just play what you see, take risks, play within his model, and just, which is obviously an expansive game. Stay on the ball, and if you can do that, then he doesn't care if you make mistakes. He'll say, okay, listen, I told you to play this way, so if you make a mistake, I can't blame you. You know what I mean? So he's really good for the young players and all the players, really. He's a real good manager. Just talks about the game the day after, and just kind of breaks it down, maybe why we were successful and why we wasn't unsuccessful. So it's just like, yeah, he's been obviously he's been my only manager, so yeah, it's been a real pleasure to play under him.
Yeah, so he just takes a lot of pressure off the young players. I think that's important as well, because with young players, you're going to get inconsistency, you're going to get mistakes. I mean, you're going to get those things. Do you know what I mean? And if you've got a manager that's willing to kind of take the pressure off you and take the blame when it goes wrong, then I think like it's good for a lot of young players. And clearly, as you can see, like when you watch Norwich play, like these guys enjoy playing under the manager and they're playing for him, which is fun to watch, like as a neutral.
Yeah.
So you're going back to you, right back to the beginning. Obviously, you started at Luton, but before that, like you was killing it in like athletics and that as well. Like, were you always a left back then, or I feel like you wasn't? A lot of these left backs used to be strikers and that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. this day and age, you see the left backs always used to play wing or centre attacking mid or strike, like you said, striker. Like obviously
Yeah,
with the emphasis on the fullbacks kind of being a lot more of a contributing factor, which is obviously good for me,
yeah,
good for the modern day fullback. So yeah, I played as kind of like a winger or a 10
yeah,
when I was younger, but obviously as I went to Norwich, I kind of adapted to the left back role, which suited me really well because obviously, like you said, coming from an athletic background, which I've always done, kind of young dual with football, really helped me with my running power and being able to
mm,
cope with the demands, especially in the Premier League. Like everyone's so much more athletic,
yeah.
which obviously I feel like I can really help my team get up the pitch, especially down the left side. So yeah, it's always been kind of part of my game to be able to deal with the demands of the game and be able to push my team forward and try create some chances, man.